Hi guys, welcome back to Classic Hi-Fi. So today we are looking at a TEAC A-400 cassette deck that will require some service, so I haven't touched this one at all. This is an absolute first for me that I got a cassette deck that has a vertical mechanism where the tape goes in vertically instead of horizontally. There were quite a few decks out there that actually did that. I think the TEAC A-400 is actually relatively common. It will be an interesting adventure for me to look at that and to take it apart and see how this mechanism is integrated here. Relatively simple deck from the late 70s, I believe. Condition is quite alright. So we got here a wooden cover, which is quite nice. A bit of a drawback is that somebody engraved here something into the front, which seems to be common here in Australia. I've seen quite a few of decks that have this kind of engraving. That makes it a bit ugly on the front, but okay, there's nothing we can do about it. Otherwise, it's in good condition. Everything is there, all knobs are there, the front is otherwise not really scratched, so that's a good start. The cassette door is quite difficult to open, so that's why they have here this piece, so you can squeeze hands together to open it, so that's obviously by design that way. And the function here is done by these twisting knobs here. Let's rewind, stop, forward, and stop and play, and then this would go into pause and record when you go into that direction. Okay, so again, so I haven't plugged that guy in at all. So let's see what it does and what it doesn't do. And I got a random tape, so let's chuck that one so it goes in that way. So usually on a cassette you will have it that way. Well, here it's this way. Okay, so let's close that, power it up. Okay, so we got power, that's already good. Dolby is already lighting up, awesome. So do we have playback? No, it doesn't look like it. So that will certainly be the Capstan belt that will require replacement. And here's also just nothing. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's open it up and have a look inside and see if we can get this guy going again. Okay, so unplug it again, and we can also take out our test tape. So there are no screws actually on the side of this guy, and also nothing on the back. So we have to remove the screws from the bottom. Yeah, so here we go. So let's take these out, and then we'll be able to just slide off the wooden case. Pretty easy. All right. So let's see if we can separate both from each other. Looks like. Here we go. We have to pull the power cable for this. Here, and here we go. So here we got it then all naked, and we can start to investigate what is actually going on. So we are still having a Capstan belt, but touching it spins not very lightly, so that's a bit unusual, so that could be part of the problem. So as we now have the view onto the mechanism, we just plug it back in and we see what's happening here. But most likely what we will see is that the pulley here is spinning and is slipping. and we don't see here any movement on the capstan wheel. But let's see. Okay, put back in the test tape, go into play. Yeah, so it seems it tries to get it to spin. So let me pull off the belt here. This is a very thick and tight belt. I'm not sure if this is the original belt actually. So the capstan motor is spinning fine. So the belt completely stopped it. So that's really really odd. It's a really thick belt. So let's put in a different capstan belt, and we take it from there. Let's unplug it again, and there will definitely a bit required to get it off, but it is actually it's actually quite simple the way it looks like. Okay. So what we got here is just 2 screws, one here and one down there, and we can remove this brace here, and after removing that brace we will be able to pull out the capstan flywheel and also replace the belt easily. So that gives us the opportunity to lubricate this and also to give the capstan a good cleaning. Okay, so let's get off these 2 screws, so that's easy enough. So that's number 1. The other one is a little bit hidden down here. Not as easy to get there. That one doesn't seem to budge, unfortunately. Okay, we can still move this bit here to the side. Plastic spacer, and that should do the trick for us. Okay, so we can get off the belt. So that's really a thick belt, very tight belt. So let's see if we can find something else. So that's always a tricky bit. Okay. Then the other way around. First about from the to the motor pulley, and then around the flywheel. Yeah, that's easier, I think. Here we go. It looks pretty good. Tension seems to be okay. So I just plug that in. Okay, test tape. And let's see if we have that spinning. We go to play, or if it's slipping. Ah, okay, that's actually looking pretty good. What I don't see spinning is now the counter here, and that's a problem because that mechanism is also ensuring that the tape knows that the capstan is still spinning, so that the end of the tape hasn't been reached. And so there are more belts here, and we also will need to investigate if there's some slippage of some of the other belts, and maybe we replace them as well. Okay, but for now we can stop that from here. So I think we have a good pick with the capstan belt, so let's see what we can do with the other belts. Okay, so I haven't tried fast forward and rewind. And that definitely stops because this guy is not spinning here. So this belt is not really pulling enough off on that counter here, and the counter is really not easy to spin. So I will replace the counter belt. And you can also see that it also got into a shape over the time, which is not good. That means it's likely to stay always in this position. But I think we need to lubricate here a little bit and see how we can pull that wheel here off, and get a bit of oil on it, and then hopefully things are spinning easier, and that will resolve this issue. To be able to work on the counter, we need to remove the front of the device. Here we go, that's the front. It also makes it easy to clean it. Can spin this. So it's definitely screwed on here on that bit. And maybe we can pull it that way out. I'm not sure. There's another one probably down below here. Yeah. So to get access to that little screw below this, and we can pull that guy out. Okay, so not so bad, we have it. That will tell us, will it budge or wouldn't it? And definitely have some movement here. So it's just pushed onto it. And here we are. Okay, all we have to do now is spray some WD-40 on it. It is designed to penetrate seized parts, and we just have to be a bit patient and wait. Okay, so let's see if WD-40 did its magic. And yeah, now it's super easy to spin. It also moves in that direction, so we can probably, by just turning it, pull that off. Yeah, here we go. And here we see this old now glue-like consistence of the original grease. So we will clean that with some IPA and get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, that's looking better. Still a bit on it. And what we need is now proper oil. So let me get some oil. Put that on it. And then that should be good for the next decades to come. Okay, spinning that now into the other direction to get it back on. And here we go. Now we have a counter that very easily spins. Good. So we can reassemble it. So cleaning that of any of oil that is here on this end. So then this plastic washer comes first, and this guy here goes on the back. So that will need a bit of force. That's just how it is. And we should be fine. Okay, I push from here. Okay, so I think I found a belt that is a good match for the old one. And it's also not that critical, but we just don't want to have it super tight and also not too loose, so that it's capable of spinning here the counter. And so that's, in my opinion, looking pretty good. So let's give it a go and see if the counter is now working in fast forward and rewind. Okay, looking good. Okay, so it seems that fixing the counter has actually solved all our problems. So we got fast forward, we got a rewind, and a working counter, and also playback is working, and the counter is doing what it's supposed to be doing in playback as well. Okay, so excellent. So there's one more belt in the transport, and I will show you which one that is. It's easy to replace. Even though everything is working, I want to replace it as well. It's just the reason for that is that I am pretty sure that it will look similar like this belt, and if this belt is in this kind of uneven shape, that can just contribute to wow and flutter. And of course we want to get a result with a low wow and flutter as much as it is possible with a mechanism like that. Okay, so let's turn that over again. Turn that guy off. Okay, so it's this guy here. So let me get just some tweezers. We can just pull it out. This one comes off probably better as well. Anyway, and here we have it. So it's definitely got into a bit of shape, something we don't want. That is a thicker belt, probably 1.2 or 1.4 millimeter. So I try to find something similar in that size. Okay, so I found a new belt which is 1.2 millimeter thick and would be a good match for the old one. And after replacing that, we pretty much have replaced all belts in this cassette deck. And yeah, so I was now at the point where I was able then to reassemble the transport. What I noticed is that the capstan belt is actually running quite far on the edge of the flywheel. So I adjusted the motor pulley a little bit and pushed that further in to resolve that issue. And after that, we saw then that the problem was resolved and the belt is running in the right position on the flywheel. I also thought it may be a good idea to put a drop of oil on all the moving parts here on the back. Okay, and now we are pretty much ready to do our first playback test, and I was greeted by a surprise. So that's not the result we were looking for. So as this seemed to be related a bit to how far I'm pulling up the volume of the output, I thought maybe a first try is to clean the potentiometers, both of them while we are at it, but I already have a different suspect for this issue. And this did actually not resolve the issue, so we are still having this strange feedback problem. So the next thing to check usually for this kind of issue, and that's in most older cassette decks problematic, are these switches that you find on the circuit board. So they are getting triggered when you go into the record mode, and they are bridging and disconnecting different traces on the circuit board to go into record mode, and often corrosion on these leads to this kind of issues. Also, when you just have playback on one channel, for example, this could be the reason. So you spray in some contact spray and move this many times, and in many cases this resolves the problem. Yeah, no difference here. The problem is resolved and we get the playback that we have been looking for. So now it's time to give it a bit of cleaning. So I've just used a brush. Since we have still the front cover off, there's easy access to every bit and piece on the transport. And we also haven't cleaned the capstan and the heads yet, so that's all something that we can do right now. Yeah, I was really surprised to see how dirty the capstan was. And by the way, for cleaning it, I use acetone and not IPA because it gives you a quicker, a better result, and it doesn't hurt the capstan shaft. Time to oil the capstan shaft, so we couldn't pull it out because we could not remove the screw in the back. That would be my preferred way of doing it. But this way, putting a drop of oil in there after we have removed the plastic cap that was in front of it and having it spinning for a while will do its trick. And now we are doing the final touches, using the compressed air also to get all dust and any dirt out of the transport, and then it's pretty much time for reassembly. Now we are treating and cleaning the old pinch roller because we want to maintain the old one, and that will do the trick for us. Okay, so mechanically we are done, so we should be good to go, and we need to do a bit of a calibration and testing. So first we do wow and flutter, then we will do the playback level check, and after that the demagnetization of the playback head. So let's see how we are going with wow and flutter. And yeah, so when I hooked the deck up, I was surprised, or should I say I was shocked, because wow and flutter was by 0.3, and according to the manual it should be around 0.08. So 0.3 is really gigantic, so you wouldn't be able to listen a piano concert to it. So looking at the service manual, I noticed that the motor has on the back a bearing, so I had to remove the front again, and thought maybe adding some oil to that motor makes it run a bit smoother, and the result was not much difference. So in my second test, you can see that here wow and flutter is pretty much the same. So I thought there might be something else that we need to look at to see if we can get it according to spec, and then I found in the service manual that you can actually bend this lever here to produce more pressure on the pinch roller, and maybe more pressure on the pinch roller provides better results. But we were pretty much in the same ballpark. So I thought maybe it's time to do the adjustment of the speed. So that's what I'm doing now. You saw that potentiometer briefly in that on the screen. But all of that would not really introduce any significant change to wow and flutter. So I thought I probably have to change the capstan belt to something that is slightly longer than what we installed. So this is now a 100 by 0.5 by 0.4. Before that we had 95 by 0.5 by 4. And that led to a bit more of a consistent result. Yeah. So I thought that's probably a better fit than what we had initially on it. So then I thought, let's see what we can do when we improve the surfaces of the different idler tires, and the one on the flywheel that where these idler tires are touching, and that actually made quite a significant improvement compared to before. We were still not yet in that exact area where we want to be according to the original specifications, but I thought, okay, let's give it a little bit more of a clean. So this is the area here where the idler tire is touching the flywheel, and that seems to be the main issue here, that these two are not having enough grip. So after a bit more of a cleaning and trying, I got into that ballpark where I wanted to be. So I wanted to be in that ballpark around 0.8. So I had to readjust the speed again. And now finally we are at 0.8 or even a little bit better than that. Next check was the playback level with the playback level test tape, and that was already perfect, so there was nothing I had to do on that. And finally the demagnetization. I couldn't use my demagnetization cassette. It turned out the battery was empty, so I used my demagnetization wand, and now I demagnetized the heads and also the capstan. Okay, putting back the knobs on, which is the final touch now, before we are getting into recording some stuff onto the deck. Spoiler warning, we are not done yet, so there's a bit more that we have to tweak on this one before we are getting it really going. So when I tried to record, first thing I noticed, I got no input signal. And I was confused in the beginning, but the solution for the problem is the bottom switch here, which is for the DIN input or for line input. So I had to move that to line input, obviously. But it came even worse. I only had then one channel really coming in, and the second channel not coming in very much. So that had to do with the bias and equalizer switches here. I had to clean them from the back and spray some contact cleaner in them and move them many times. So then I had a clean signal coming in on both channels, and I was able then to go ahead with the recording test. So this is just a line input and getting the recording level roughly into the right range before we are starting with the actual test song to record. So that's the beginning of the test song, and what I noticed is that the input levels are different for the left and the right channel. I can balance that out because I have separate left channel and right channel calibration, but that's not ideal. So here you can see it even a little bit better. So it's time to have a look into the service manual and see what we can adjust here. So this is the corresponding page out of the service manual. So what you can see here with VR102 and 202, we can adjust the input level. That's what we need to do. We don't want to adjust the level meter, for example, because we have established with playback of the input level calibration tape that the VO meters were accurate, and also that the output levels were accurate as well. So that's something we don't want to tweak with. So let's tune the VR102 and 202 on the circuit board. It's mainly the 202 that we have to tweak for the right channel. And after doing this a bit and applying a 1 kHz test tone, that's where I ended up with. So I was happy with that result. So now I'm recording the 1 kHz test tone and play it back to see how that works out. And what you can see is that the recording level now on the left channel is definitely not high enough. So there's some further calibration required on the board. So I adjusted VR104 and 204 so that I have a balanced out recording level. And this is then the result that I had at the end.
There's something no good, but I want you.
And the second test song was direct line capture, and it sounds pretty good.
There's something about you, and I can't let go.
And that's already the end of the video. So if you watch carefully, you actually learn quite a number of tricks here. So if you run into this feedback issue, you now know that you have to clean the record and playback sliding switch on the main board. If you get no signal or no clean signal, check any switches for bias or equalization. They might be dirty as well, and that might be a bit of a problem. Wow and Flutter, there's a lot that can contribute it. Not the right build, surfaces that don't have a good contact, not enough lubrication. All of that and the sum of that can help to get a proper result. I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, thank you for watching, guys.